Our story kicks off in a beginner-level dungeon in West Tokyo where a lone explorer walks forward, and our guy is already looking like he is having the absolute worst day of his life. This is Ajiri Daishin, a monk, and he is salty because absolutely no one will let him join their party. He finally escaped his soul-crushing corporate job to be an explorer, only to hit this wall immediately. Other explorers just straight up tell him to get lost until he actually learns a recovery skill. A different guy scoffs at his level 1 status, saying they are not running a daycare here. Then a girl shuts him down cold by just calling him an old man, brutal, absolutely savage. So now he is completely crushed, realizing he has to tackle his very first dungeon all by himself. We get a quick lore drop. Dungeons appeared 50 years ago, attracting treasure hunters galore. This business model is simple: kill monsters, find treasure, and cash it all in at the guild. But lately, the guild has upgraded the tech, so now you can get a signal inside the dungeons. Which of course means dungeon crawling has become a live streaming gig for ad revenue capitalism, baby. Seeing a floating camera, Ajiri figures he might as well try streaming to make a little cash. It is an auto-tracking camera, and just like that, his sad solo adventure is now live content. This live chat immediately perks up, curious about a supposed healer attempting a solo run. Our boy is stunned to see he is already live with a whopping 3 concurrent viewers. He is basically famous. But his audience is just trolls hoping to watch him get spectacularly wrecked for their entertainment. One of the viewers then demands he show his status screen to the stream. He obliges, revealing his truly pathetic level 1 monk stats and a single skill, Spirit Vision. This chat is completely baffled. What the heck is Spirit Vision, and where's the basic heal skill? Ajiri mulls over his one skill, Spirit Vision, which basically just lets him see stats. He laments that he got stuck as a monk, a rare support class, when he really wanted to be a warrior. Then something clicks and he suddenly remembers why this place feels so familiar. This is the very same dungeon he stumbled into while he was blackout drunk. We get a flashback to his salaryman days, passed out cold on the sidewalk, a true professional. In his drunken stupor, he had apparently wandered right into the dungeon entrance. It is the exact spot where he awakened his powers, which explains absolutely nothing about his terrible build. Snap back to reality, a notification from his stream pops up, startling him. This chat is, of course, roasting him for being a jumpy idiot, amazed he has not died yet. One of his viewers points out that there is something on his foot. Our boy looks down, completely clueless as to what they are talking about, and he absolutely loses his mind when he sees a tiny slime latched onto his leg. Using Spirit Vision, he confirms it is a terrifyingly weak slime with a whole 5 HP. This slime immediately attacks, splattering all over him, and he is not having a good time. A quick reminder of dungeon rules: any attack is lethal at 0 HP, but a stab to the heart is fine if you have 1 HP left. Ajiri panics, trying to shake the gooey creature off his hand. Finally getting a grip, he grabs the little blob with pure disgust. He eats the slime away from him with all his might, then winds up for a mighty punch, a true martial artist in the making. This slime goes flying through the air, looking less like a monster and more like a gooey boomerang. Ajiri pumps his fist, absolutely convinced he just landed a world-ending blow. Except the slime just bounces across the floor like a sad, wet, hacky sack. He checks its stats again and realizes his epic punch did a whole 1 point of damage, ouch. Meanwhile, he has taken damage himself and his chat is already telling him how to do his job. A viewer asks if he has any potions, which makes our boy stop and actually think for a second. He completely forgot he had any, and the chat is absolutely roasting him for being a total idiot. Taking their advice, he decides on a tactical retreat, time to get the heck out of there. But a helpful viewer points out the obvious. With an agility stat of 1, he cannot outrun a turtle. This reality of his situation crashes down on him. He is trapped by the weakest monster in the game. With no other options, he clenches his fist, realizing he has to fight or die right here. A fire ignites in his eyes as he finally gets serious about this life-or-death battle. He remembers the chat's tip about aiming for the belly to deal some actual damage. With a desperate cry, he charges forward, staff raised for a decisive strike. His terrifying opponent just sits there, wobbling with pure unadulterated menace. But just as he swings, the slime leaps onto the wall, easily dodging his attack. In his frantic lunge, Ajiri completely loses his balance and goes flying forward, accidentally delivering a perfect, unplanned kick right into the wall-mounted slime. His viewers are absolutely losing it, convinced he is a goner for touching the thing. He is screaming in terror, but then he sees it. The kick has exposed the slime's belly. Seizing the opportunity, he brings his staff down with all his might for the finishing blow. With a final squish, the slime dissolves into a pathetic puddle on the floor. Ajiri checks the stats, absolutely stunned that he actually defeated the terrifying beast. HP is at 0. Completely spent, he collapses with only 2 HP left, while his chat offers some very mixed reviews. Then a system notification pops up. He has leveled up and even learned a new skill. Our boy is completely floored by the sudden power-up, a reward for his epic struggle. Checking his new stats, he sees a nice little boost, except his magic just cratered to 0. And he absolutely loses it, realizing his magic is gone and he still lacks a single recovery skill. His new skill, Fire Dance, apparently burns things while his chat tries to solve his bizarre stat distribution. Just as he is processing this terrible build, a sudden noise from deeper in the dungeon startles him. His eyes go wide with terror, wondering what fresh hell is about to find him now. Peering down the dark corridor, his chat starts freaking out, warning him that something bad is on its way. A massive orc stomps into view, a monster that has absolutely no business being on the first floor. His first instinct, as always, is a tactical retreat, time to book it, but his body completely locks up, paralyzed by the pure, unadulterated terror of the situation. His viewers are screaming at him to get a move on, insisting he can outrun the slow-moving beast. Ajiri, however, is too busy having a complete system failure, whimpering that his legs are locked up. This chat's tone shifts from mockery to frantic coaching, telling him to use his new skill and focus. He's completely given up, convinced his grand explorer career is ending on the very first day. This orc's terrifying shadow falls over him, a hulking silhouette of pure doom. Resigned to his fate, he kneels and thanks his viewers for sticking with him, a truly pathetic farewell tour. But his chat suddenly rallies, telling him to stop whining and show them his corporate slave grit. Ajiri is actually moved to tears by this bizarre, borderline abusive encouragement. Wiping his eyes, he declares that it is way too early for him to give up now. He flashes back to his office days, realizing even this is better than that soul-crushing despair. This brave thought lasts about 2 seconds before he remembers the orc about to murder him. With a desperate scream, he points his staff and unleashes his new skill, Fire Dance. A massive pillar of flame erupts from the ground, completely swallowing the monster whole. This orc's face gets absolutely flash-fried, its eyeball popping clean out of its socket. Ajiri can only stare in disbelief at the insane amount of power he just unleashed. As the flames die down, all that is left standing is a perfectly cooked skeleton. This bony remains then clatter into a pathetic heap on the dungeon floor. Its skull just sits there, looking profoundly confused about its sudden lack of meat. His viewers are going absolutely nuts, laughing that he literally incinerated the orc down to its bones. Our boy is still in shock, just muttering about the fire he somehow created. Then it dawns on him that he could have just hidden behind a corner instead of going full pyromaniac. A system notification pops up yet again. He has leveled up and learned even more skills. Ajiri's face lights up with pure joy, certain this is the time he finally gets a healing spell. His new stats show a jump to level 5 and a massive unexplained spike in a piety stat, and he is back on the floor in despair. His new skills are Purify and Return, still no healing. He tells his now 12 viewers he is leaving, and they actually tell him to prep recovery items for next time. Ajiri's feeling all warm and fuzzy, thinking his viewers are actually pretty decent people after all. This wholesome moment is immediately shattered by a girl flying at him, screaming to get out of the way. Our boy has just enough time to register his impending doom, before she slams right into him with the grace of a runaway freight train. She lands directly on top of him, groaning about how much that hurt, then cheerfully apologizes for using the old man as a human landing pad. Ajiri is completely knocked out with 1 HP left, while she is just sorry he was in her fall zone. Standing over the wreckage, she finally takes in the scene of him lying among the orc bones, and her face twists in horror as she realizes she just nearly finished off a half-dead guy. Wasting no time, she whips out a healing spell, a glowing orb of pure recovery magic. This light washes over Ajiri, patching him up while he is still completely out of it, and he slowly starts to come to, feeling the warmth of a skill he can only dream of having. Sitting up, he mumbles his thanks for the heal, and she asks if he is all right. They are now just inches apart, and he is still trying to process what just happened. She gets right in his face, introducing herself as Satsuki Amane, an S-rank explorer, while Ajiri has a panic attack. His mind is just reeling, an S-rank with a healing skill, the exact opposite of his entire existence. Meanwhile, his chat is absolutely losing its mind, wondering why a top-tier explorer is in a noob dungeon. Ajiri glances at his screen, realizing this girl is a famous streamer, which explains the sudden viewer explosion. This chat notifications are now flooding in so fast they are just a solid wall of text. But Satsuki just casually calls it fate, completely unfazed by the absolute chaos she has caused. Ajiri's chat helpfully informs him he has just met a celebrity with 500,000 rabid fans, so naturally he decides to use spirit vision to sneak a peek at her stats. And her numbers are just completely broken, with stats and skills on another level entirely. He is stunned that his own vision skill must have leveled up, revealing way more info than before. This screen confirms it, Satsuki Amane, a level 52 magic swordsman, a total powerhouse. Then she turns her attention to the crispy orc skeleton on the floor, asking what it is. She is just staring at the pile of bones, completely baffled by the bizarre scene. Ajiri tries to play it cool, casually mentioning he is the one who torched the orc. But Satsuki immediately calls him out, saying an orc has no business being on this floor. She points out his newbie gear makes it impossible for him to have won that fight alone. Flustered, Ajiri sees his chat telling him to just show her the stream footage as proof. Her eyes are practically spinning as she tries to figure out what is so weird about him. Deciding to investigate, she announces she is going to use her appraisal skill on him. She gets way too close for comfort, putting a hand right on his chest to read his stats. Satsuki is completely stumped. A monk with 0 recovery skills is just unheard of. With a wink, she suggests he get his bizarre build checked out at the guild headquarters. Our boy is just dazed by the suggestion, pointing at himself in total confusion. And just like that, she says goodbye and sprints off deeper into the dungeon. He can only watch as she vanishes down the corridor in an absolute flash. Her viewers speculate she is rushing to an emergency quest related to the dungeon's anomaly. His viewer count is exploding, with Satsuki's fans more interested in the weird old guy. Ajiri decides he is done for the day and wants to test out his shiny new return skill. Except the skill fails because he never set a return point. Of course he did not. Resigned to his fate, our boy begins the long, pathetic walk of shame out of the dungeon. But a sudden scream from deeper inside makes him freeze in his tracks. He immediately recognizes the voice as Satsuki's, the S-rank girl who just saved him. In a shocking display of not cowardice, he actually sprints back towards the danger. His chat is absolutely losing it, screaming that if an S-rank is in trouble, he is just dead meat. But Ajiri cannot just abandon the person who healed him, vowing to help her out. A bright light shines from a corridor ahead, and he is convinced that is where she is. He bursts through the doorway, ready to be a hero for once in his life, and immediately gets clocked in the face by something bony and unpleasant. A skeleton warrior is on him in a flash, and Ajiri is back to screaming for his life. Now he is on the floor, completely surrounded by a whole squad of angry skeletons. One of them lunges forward, jaws wide open for a bite he definitely will not survive. Ajiri just shuts his eyes, bracing for the inevitable and very crunchy end. At the last second, the skeleton's entire ribcage just explodes into pieces. Satsuki flies in with a devastating kick, completely obliterating the monster in one hit. This bony remains just shatter into dust, not even knowing what hit them. Ajiri can only stare from the floor as his S-rank savior stands over the mess. Satsuki leans over him, asking if the old man is okay after that little skeleton incident. Ajiri stammers out a thank you before immediately asking why she even came back for him. He sheepishly admits he heard a scream and just started running on pure unthinking instinct. Realizing it was her scream, she apologizes for accidentally dragging him into this mess. Then she cheekily adds she never expected to find a full-blown monster house in here. Our boy is completely lost, having absolutely no idea what she is talking about. A monster house, it turns out, is a giant angry mob of skeletons, goblins, and other assorted nightmares. She explains it is a rare dungeon phenomenon where monsters spawn in super high density, and looking down into a massive cavern, they see an entire army of them waiting. To make matters worse, she calls it a trap zone, meaning they are locked in until everything's dead. His chat is going wild, counting at least 50 enemies and calling the situation absolutely brutal. Ajiri runs to the entrance, confirming with pure terror that the way out is completely sealed. He tries to downplay his panic, telling Satsuki this is probably no big deal for an S-ranker. Then he puffs out his chest and tells her to just focus on herself, a truly terrible idea. Satsuki is not impressed, ordering him to simply protect himself and stay out of her way. Trying to sound confident, he reminds her he took down an orc so he can totally handle this. Maybe. She just turns away, muttering that if he had not shown up, she'd already be done here. His viewers are already backseat gaming, telling him to use fire dance or try purify on the skeletons. Ajiri absolutely snaps at his chat, screaming at them for treating his life-or-death situation so casually. But then a thought hits him. Undead skeletons are probably weak to fire, so maybe they have a point. Satsuki gives a cheeky wink, telling him to just try not to die while she handles this. And with a single step, she is off, launching herself right into the monster horde. She is an absolute blur, carving through skeletons and goblins with her flaming sword. A massive wolf-like beast gets cleaved in two without slowing her down for a second. Ajiri is just watching from the back, totally starstruck by her fire sword technique. A single wide swing of her blade takes out 3 monsters at once, a total S-rank flex. But of course a couple of skeletons notice the guy doing absolutely nothing and head his way. This snaps him out of it. He realizes he actually has to use a skill to not die. He completely freezes up, trying to remember what his new, useless-seeming skills even do. This skill is Purify, but he has no clue how to visualize that, just sweating pure anxiety. His mind is just racing. Is he supposed to chant a sutra or something equally ridiculous? With a skeleton right on top of him, he just screams and desperately imagines a holy light. He is literally praying for a faint light to descend from the heavens to save his skin. This prayer gets more intense, begging the light to banish all the evil spirits around him. And somehow his pathetic screaming actually activates the Enter Nirvana skill. A literal gigantic Buddha just appears in the sky, bathing the entire room in holy light. This skeleton in front of him just stops, its body peacefully dissolving into particles. All across the cavern, every single undead monster just melts away into nothing. Ajiri is left standing there, staff still raised, as the last of the light fades. He looks down at his hands with a baffled little huh, as if he planned that all along. Satsuki is just standing there, completely floored that all 20 skeletons just poofed out of existence. His chat, meanwhile, is losing its mind over his broken skill, while Ajiri just wonders what the big deal is. But the celebration is cut short when every single remaining monster turns to stare right at him. Ajiri starts sweating, asking why the entire mob suddenly decided he is the main character. He is panicking hard, remembering he can barely even use his basic fire spell, let alone that Buddha thing. This thought of that entire horde charging him at once is enough to give him a heart attack. Satsuki yanks him back, warning him there is a seriously strong enemy in the crowd. With a determined look, she tells him to just hold on by himself for a bit. She cannot help him now. Our boy is just dumbfounded because holding on against that army sounds like a death sentence. She gives him a firm pat on the back, a classic "you got this" probably gesture, and somehow that is all it takes for his panic to vanish, thanking her for the morale boost. Satsuki turns her attention to the real threat, a crowned goblin who is clearly the boss. His viewers immediately identify it as a goblin king, a mid-boss from a high-level dungeon. That leaves Ajiri to deal with the rest of the welcoming committee, a lovely mix of nightmares. Fired up, he screams that he will take them on since his holy move is useless now anyway. A lizard dog thing immediately lunges, forcing him to put his money where his mouth is. He just snaps, screaming that they are all ganging up on him like his old corporate bosses. With no other plan, he just decides to charge straight in, unleashing his fire burial spell. At the same time, Satsuki clashes with the Goblin King, their blades locked in a stalemate. Even she is shocked, admitting out loud that this little Goblin King is surprisingly tough. Satsuki's blade locks with the Goblin King's and the little guy is somehow holding his own. Meanwhile, Ajiri's fire spell absolutely incinerates the lizard dog thing charging at him. This S-ranker is completely distracted, noticing the flames are a weird blue color she has never seen. But instead of questioning it, her eyes go wide. She sees a perfect opening in the fight. With a fierce battle cry, she lunges forward to finish off the stunned Goblin King for good. And just like that, the entire cavern goes silent, with Ajiri standing alone in the aftermath. Satsuki turns around, completely baffled that every single monster has just vanished into thin air. From across the room, our boy just waves casually, asking if she is alright after all that. He explains his spell has a built-in friend-or-foe system, so it only torched the enemies, a handy feature. She admits that even after watching his stream, she honestly did not believe any of it was real. Getting right up in his personal space, she demands to know what in the world he actually is. Ajiri just stammers that he is a total newbie, which is technically true and also a complete lie. Satsuki absolutely loses it, screaming that no beginner wipes an entire mob with a level 2 skill. Our boy just sweats bullets, thinking she has got a bit of a temper, you think. But he is saved by the bell as a system notification pops up. He has leveled up and learned a new skill. While she is still fuming, he is celebrating his new stats, especially that insane jump in piety. He checks his MP, realizing he was running on fumes and barely had enough for that last spell. Satsuki glares over his shoulder as he calculates that his big Buddha move cost a decent chunk of mana. His new skill, Karma, has a super vague description about a light wall, leaving his chat totally confused. Her eyes narrow into a glare, telling him not to underestimate her. She's going to figure him out. Satsuki lays it out for him. This dungeon is a total anomaly, and so is he, to the point where a capture quest might get slapped on him. Ajiri completely freaks out, begging her to cut the jokes. He just became an adventurer today. He is not some kind of monster. This chat chimes in, confirming it is totally possible since his viewer count is spiking and clip channels are probably already feasting on his misery. With notifications still popping off, the awful truth dawns on him. He might actually get captured for being accidentally awesome. Suddenly, Satsuki announces a complete change of plans, deciding she is not just gonna dip out after all. Our boy gets a sinking feeling in his stomach because that look on her face means nothing good for him. This new plan is simple. This is a 10-floor dungeon and the only exit is a warp point at the very bottom. With a blindingly cute expression, she asks him to please party up with her and clear the dungeon. He stammers that he is a total beginner who'd just be dead weight, but she is already bowing and begging. While they walk, she calls him out for being way too modest, though he is still insisting it was a total accident. With a smile that is 90% threat, she gets in his face and says no beginner just accidentally deletes a monster house. Then her tone shifts, admitting she is genuinely worried. A monster house and a goblin king on the upper floors is just wrong. Ajiri's survival instincts kick in immediately, suggesting they should absolutely turn back right this second. She grabs his arm to stop his retreat, pointing out that they have no idea what is waiting for them down there. And then she unleashes the ultimate weapon, the teary-eyed plea, saying she is just too scared to go on alone. Ajiri is completely cornered, thinking there is no way he can turn her down when she is pulling the damsel in distress card this hard. But then his old corporate sales slave brain kicks in, analyzing her needs. She is clearly on a quest to investigate this dungeon. While she keeps up the act, he connects the dots. If he bails, she could easily have an emergency quest issued to capture him. This leads to a horrifying mental image of her turning him over to the guild. Mission accomplished. Our boy just sighs, admitting that while it all makes perfect logical sense, emotionally this is a total mess. Trapped by her flawless logic, Ajiri just gives a weary smile and agrees to do his best. Her act immediately drops as she tackles him with a victory hug, thanking the old man for his help. All his big brain corporate analysis just shatters, proving his logic is pathetically weak against a cute girl. Breaking away, she realizes she never actually asked for the old man's name this whole time. This guy stammers out his name. He is Ajiri Daishi, a name she probably should have asked earlier. Satsuki immediately asks if she can call him Daishi-san, laying on the charm now that he is on board. Our boy is a blushing mess, asking if he can call her Satsuki-chan in return. Dude is completely flustered. With a smile that could power a city, she happily agrees to the new nickname. Ajiri clutches his chest, thinking her smile is a critical hit, way too dazzling for a guy like him. Then she just grabs his hand, ready to get this show on the road, with a cheerful "let us go." She starts dragging him deeper into the dungeon, giving him no time to object. As they head down the path, he is just filled with dread, knowing this is an irregular dungeon. Satsuki, on the other hand, is all smiles, thinking that whatever fate awaits, she knows he has got some kind of secret. He glances at his stream overlay now at 202 viewers and resigns himself to this mess, no turning back now. This two of them head down a long flight of stairs, spotting a couple of treasure chests on the landings. Reaching the bottom, they find themselves standing in front of another doorway. Ajiri peeks through the door and is absolutely floored, wondering what kind of room this is. This view reveals a massive cavern absolutely filled to the brim with rows and rows of treasure chests. Satsuki identifies it as a treasure house, but she looks suspicious while his chat explodes over the insane luck. This camera zooms in on one of the seemingly ordinary, very tempting treasure chests. Satsuki immediately gets bad vibes, saying this whole setup feels like an obvious trap. She warns him that it is probably crawling with mimics, but her appraisal skill is not high enough to tell. But Ajiri's clairvoyance skill kicks in, letting him see a faint red glow on some of them. And Satsuki confirms that yup, a red glow means it is a mimic ready to bite your face off. Ajiri's a little let down, realizing his skill just spots traps, not full enemy stats like he'd hoped. This leaves Satsuki just staring at him, completely unable to believe he started with a skill that powerful. He just nervously scans the room, trying to find a chest that is not glowing red. Then it hits him, almost every single chest in this entire massive room is a mimic, except for one way in the back, a single sparkling golden chest that looks super rare. Our boy immediately loses all composure and bolts for it, totally hyped for his first real treasure. Satsuki screams from behind, trying to warn him that it is not gold, it is yellow asterisk. But he is already there, thinking this is his reward for all the trouble, completely ignoring her. With a happy little tune, he pops the lid open, ready for some sweet, sweet loot. His chat, ever the voice of reason, just posts a simple "it is over, lol." This camera pans down to reveal the chest is completely and utterly empty. He is just confused for a second before the lid slams shut right on his hand. Satsuki is screaming from the entrance that yellow chests are traps and he needs to get out of there now. That is the cue for every other chest in the room to start rattling, one popping open to reveal a mouth full of teeth. And suddenly the entire room is a sea of chattering teeth as all the mimics activate at once. His chat just explodes with warnings. All the mimics are active, they have instant death magic, and he is toast. Satsuki gets her arm chomped by a mimic, completely caught off guard by the sudden attack. She screams at Ajiri that one hit is fatal, telling him to just dodge and run for the exit. Our boy is absolutely losing it. If an S-ranker is panicking, what chance does he even have? His only plan is to use Fire Burial, hoping it is at least strong enough to knock them back. With a desperate cry, he unleashes the spell on the entire room of angry treasure chests. But the attack just fizzles out, doing absolutely nothing to the horde of chattering mimics. Ajiri is just stunned, realizing his big fire move was a total dud against these things. That is when one of the mimics starts charging up a nasty-looking ball of dark energy. And it is not just one, every single mimic is preparing the exact same dark magic attack. His chat is screaming death magic, but Ajiri's too busy having a full-blown meltdown to notice. There is absolutely nowhere to run, trapped on a tiny walkway surrounded by instant death orbs. With no time left to think, he just grips his staff, ready to try anything. This first dark orb shoots out, flying straight for him at terrifying speed. A whole volley of death orbs closes in and it really looks like this is the end. He just screams out the name of his new skill, Karma, as a total last resort. Suddenly, a brilliant wall of light erupts around him, deflecting every single blast. This mimics just keep firing, their attacks bouncing harmlessly off the holy barrier. Meanwhile, Satsuki gets launched through the air by the mimic that had her trapped. And just like that, all the mimics just stop, their attacks completely neutralized. Satsuki just stares from the ground, completely speechless at the impossible sight before her. Our boy just stares at his hands, wondering if he actually just wiped out that entire room. This mimics are all just regular chests again, while his chat speculates his skill reflected their own death magic back at them. Ajiri gives a goofy thumbs up, basically saying, "I have no idea what I did, but we are alive." Rushing over, he checks on Satsuki, who insists she is fine, though her pride is clearly in shambles. And of course, another system notification pops up, announcing that Ajiri has leveled up yet again. She is already looking over his shoulder at the stats screen, noting his piety is now a ridiculous 999. He complains about only getting one level, completely missing Satsuki, pointing out his piety is basically at the cap. As they walk, he admits his stats are weird and she is like, "Yeah, you are weird and that is not a compliment." Her expression gets dead serious as she warns him that a power that abnormal has to have some kind of price. Our boy is completely lost, just repeating the word price back at her like a confused puppy. Satsuki then tells him a story about another adventurer she met who was suspiciously strong for their low level. That adventurer's power went berserk and they died suddenly, a story his chat confirms was a huge, unexplained incident. This story absolutely terrifies Ajiri, who is now convinced he has just been handed a massive death flag. His immediate reaction is to turn tail and run, but Satsuki calmly suggests a trip to the guild for a checkup. She then reminds him of a tiny, insignificant detail: you cannot leave until you hit the warp point on the final floor, and the look of pure soul-crushing despair on his face is just priceless. With a cheerful wink, she declares it is a date to the 10th floor since she forgot her escape items. How convenient. Ajiri is just screaming in silent horror as his chat loses its mind, with one person finally asking what that 243 number is. Even Satsuki is stumped, admitting she has no clue what that mysterious 243 next to his piety stat is. Leave it to the chat to solve the mystery, with one viewer suggesting those are probably bonus points he can assign to other stats. Ajiri is just completely baffled by the chat's theory about bonus points. And Satsuki is right there with him, equally clueless about the mysterious number. He starts tapping his screen, wondering if the chat might actually be right about assigning them, but Satsuki immediately crushes that dream, insisting things are never that convenient. Her memory suddenly jogs, asking if he remembers seeing any blue chests on the way down. Our boy points back to the landing, confirming he did spot one earlier. She immediately bolts for it, hoping for an MP potion since they are both running on empty. He is practically giddy with relief since he is totally out of juice after that last fight. Satsuki just laughs, calling him a useless old man without his skills, zero mercy. This verbal jab lands like a critical hit, confirming her pride is still smarting from the mimic room. Full of excitement, she announces she is opening their hard-earned treasure chest. But the lid pops open and her face just freezes in absolute unfiltered horror. He scrambles over to see what is wrong because that is not the face of someone who found a potion. And one look inside has his face twisting into the exact same expression of pure disgust, because inside is just a single, glistening and very questionable-looking raw liver. His chat explodes with speculation, calling it everything from a sacrifice to literal garbage. A system prompt identifies it as the liver of the underworld king, conveniently seasoned for immediate consumption. How thoughtful. Our boy is absolutely horrified, screaming that there is no way he is eating suspicious raw meat. But Satsuki, ever the streamer, turns to her audience, hyping up the super rare item that could grant new powers. And the horror dawns on Ajiri. She is trying to use her viewers to bully him into eating the cursed liver. Satsuki immediately turns to the camera, roping Ajiri's own viewers into her little scheme. With full-on puppy dog eyes, she asks the audience if they do not want to see Daishisen get stronger, a master manipulator at work. Our boy is absolutely losing it, yelling that she is just trying to mess with him for her own amusement. His chat, ever the voice of reason, immediately betrays him with a flood of eat it and do it for the stream. Drowning in a sea of peer pressure, Ajiri just stares at the liver, convinced he is trapped in his own personal hell. He finally caves and grabs the slimy organ with a scream of pure agony while Satsuki cheers him on. And down the hatch it goes, a truly horrifying moment as he shoves the questionable meat into his mouth. Satsuki watches with a slightly guilty but mostly amused expression as the poor guy starts to gag. But then his face completely changes. The cursed liver is actually delicious, leaving Satsuki totally baffled. Now he is just happily chowing down, telling a very concerned Satsuki that he feels totally fine. This guy even says the gross organ makes him crave a beer, which is a whole new level of culinary insanity. She snaps that she is definitely not healing his stomach if he gets sick, but he just nervously laughs it off. A system notification then pops up, confirming his piety stat broke its limit and he can now assign bonus points. Both of them are stunned, realizing the chat's wild theory about the mystery number was right all along. Without a second thought, Ajiri starts dumping all 243 points into his HP, MP, and strength stats. He is celebrating his newfound power like a kid on Christmas, while Satsuki just gives him a deadpan stare. His chat immediately starts roasting him for his terrible stat allocation, calling it a complete waste. Meanwhile, his viewer count has absolutely exploded to 3,500 people. The liver stunt was a massive success. Ajiri cannot even keep up with the comments anymore. The chat is just a blur of notifications. With a bright smile, Satsuki declares they can finally move on, totally satisfied with her newly buffed-up party member. Ajiri is still feeling uneasy, but Satsuki declares there is nothing left for them here and heads off. She is practically skipping with excitement, wondering what kind of room they will find next. Our boy, meanwhile, is just desperately hoping to get back to the surface before things get any weirder. Satsuki spots the next door down a flight of stairs, calling out that she has found the way forward. With a grunt, she pushes open the heavy doors, next to which sits a bizarre cartoon statue. A brilliant flash of light pours out from the newly opened room, and they are suddenly greeted by a cartoon rabbit in a top hat celebrating their good luck with confetti. Both of them just stare, completely dumbfounded by the sudden appearance of a theme park mascot. Ajiri then notices Satsuki is breaking out in a cold sweat, asking her if this thing is actually dangerous. His chat immediately recognizes the time-space rabbit and the unique house, spamming that it is all over. This rabbit thoughtfully taps his chin, saying today's mission might be a bit too hard for them. Satsuki looks absolutely terrified, which finally clues Ajiri in that this is a very, very bad situation. With a dramatic twirl of his cane, the rabbit announces he is going to explain the rules of his little game. Today's special event is a journey through time-space darts, presented with maximum game show energy. Ajiri is completely lost as the rabbit bounces around, explaining they have to play darts to continue. This little guy then explains with a smug grin that he will teleport them to whatever floor the dart lands on. Our heroes can only stare back, completely unable to process this new, absurd dungeon mechanic. This rabbit then dramatically unveils the dartboard they will be using for this game of chance. A closer look reveals every single wedge on the board is labeled deepest floor, a real variety of options. Ajiri just explodes, screaming that it is all the same and there is only one horrible choice. With a flourish, the rabbit points his cane right at the bullseye, telling them to look very closely, and right in the center is a tiny jackpot space, the one pixel of hope on this board of doom. Ajiri immediately starts screaming that the jackpot is impossibly small, calling out the obvious scam. But the rabbit just wags his finger, promising a special reward if they manage to hit that one spot. He then clarifies every other spot sends them to a Hades-class dungeon, and he is asterisk praying they do not hit the worst one. Sure you are, buddy. Satsuki is absolutely horrified, explaining you cannot even escape from the upper floors of a Hades-class dungeon. In fact, she says no SSS rank has ever cleared the deepest floor, and countless explorers have died there. This sheer terror on Ajiri's face says it all as he finally grasps the life-or-death stakes. His chat is dropping lore bombs, confirming this is one of the world's 3 great dungeons, and even the hero's party tapped out around floor 80. It is finally clicking for Ajiri. They have stumbled into a place where most adventurers quit by floor 50. His viewers even mention a mid-boss dragon that is apparently responsible for the most adventurer deaths in history. Ajiri asks what happens if they just refuse, but the rabbit politely informs him that participation is mandatory. A chilling close-up on the rabbit's dead, black eye drives the point home. They literally cannot refuse. Satsuki resigns herself to this nightmare as the rabbit explains the mission. Just survive for 10 minutes and they can even use an escape item to come back. Ajiri asks if they will be provided an escape item, but Satsuki points out that using it means failing the mission. This rabbit just casually says they have to bring their own. This funhouse does not do handouts. Ajiri's face just crumples in defeat because of course that is the catch. Satsuki leans in, whispering some kind of last-ditch strategy to the poor guy. His face lights up as he suggests using a return skill, praising Satsuki for the brilliant idea. He turns to the rabbit with a smug grin, absolutely convinced he has found the perfect loophole. This rabbit gives his name with a smug little smile. He is the time-space rabbit. Ajiri just deadpans the name back, already completely over this mascot's whole deal. He then lays out his genius plan. Since they have no escape items, he will just use his own return skill. This cartoon menace actually seems to consider it, stroking his chin like a Bond villain. Then he suddenly freaks out, acting completely shocked that Ajiri has a teleport skill at all. Our boy is feeling pretty smug, explaining he will just set his return point right here and pop back after the mission. Satsuki points out a tiny flaw in his plan. He has never used the skill and probably cannot set a point here anyway. This rabbit seems to be thinking the same thing, noting that a beginner monk should not have a skill that rare. But with a cheerful wave, he gives Ajiri the green light, basically saying, "Go on, try it, I dare you." Ajiri gets all fired up, telling the rabbit to just watch him prove everyone wrong. Total bait, and he is biting. With a dramatic shout, he activates his return skill, creating a massive pillar of light to set his point. A system notification asks to confirm setting the return coordinates to this very unique house. And just like that, the system announces the setting is complete. Wait, it actually worked. This light fades, leaving Ajiri standing there, his loophole seemingly secured. He is sweating with relief, thinking that was way too easy for a supposedly inescapable trap. Now he is all hyped up, grabbing a dart and telling Satsuki he is totally ready to throw. Satsuki, however, just gives him a death glare while holding her own dart, clearly not sharing his enthusiasm. She asks if he is really confident he can hit a 1% target, basically calling out his terrible luck. His confidence shatters instantly as he begs her to throw instead. So much for the big hero moment. With a determined look, Satsuki steps up to the line, ready to take their one and only shot.